Welcome to You, Me and IT, the podcast taking us behind the title of some of the leading individuals in the IT channel. I'm Karlton Gray, UK and Ireland Channel Director at Schneider Electric, and in each episode I'll be speaking to some of the leading figures in one of the UK's most prominent industries. Today's episode is a bit of a full circle moment for me. My guest has been a consistent presence in my career and someone I see as a mentor and now as a friend. Scott Norman, Sales Director at Holdan, part of the Midwich Group. Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me along, mate, and that's really kind.
First thing for me, Scott, is to understand a bit about you, where you're from. I think it's important that other people should know where you're from and who you are, because I think sometimes you sit in the background rather than the foreground.
So I was born in Norwich. I come from a small town in Norfolk called Holdan, 3,000 population, and I had one sister and a couple of hard-working parents, and my family business is fish and chips. So I was born lived in a fish and chip shop environment all my life. It was a family business, so I had my grandparents there and my father and mother, and spent many happy years just sitting in the front of the shop while the big kids came in and asked for free Crispies or packets of chips, which made me a very popular kid in the area. So that stood me in good stead if I was ever out and about in the town. And
by the way, I used to work in Holston.
Did you?
Yeah, I was a removal man.
You were, weren't you?
For a company.
Hamilton's.
Yeah.
Yes.
We worked there. And I suppose that leads me on to, obviously I joined Midwich when you'd been there for a while.
Yeah.
So when did you join Midwich? And where was that from?
Okay, so career-wise, I didn't have an idea, Karlton. I went to college, sort of bumbled my way through that. My mother got me over the line because I just didn't give it enough respect. But credit to my mum, she made me go. And I got a qualification, and then really lost. Didn't know what I wanted to do, so went through a variety of different jobs, from steel welding to chicken catching. Just tried a number of different things. Certainly found out what I didn't like doing. That was pretty easy. And then I went, and actually the turning point for me was when I realised I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I saw friends and that getting on in life, and I thought, I've got to turn this around, as a decision I made myself. And so I started looking at what is earning the big bucks at the moment. And I sort of started looking through the job adverts in papers. I found that computer programming was the where they were paying the big money. So I signed up to an online course, paid for it myself. So many, many years ago, we were talking 30 years ago, I spent about $2.5K on that, which is quite a lot.
Okay.
Back in the day. But what it did do is made me invest myself. So suddenly I could have backed myself. And probably the best grade I ever received in any qualification. I got about 98% on that. Now, I never carried on in the computer programming world because actually I wasn't interested in it. But what it did do is gave me the confidence to start to apply for different jobs. So suddenly I'm like putting my name down for big jobs in Norwich.
Who did you apply for?
On this occasion, I actually went for an advertising job, which is bizarre because it's not in the computer programming world, but it looked like something I'd be interested in because it was sales for it. When I got there, it was definitely like another level. People were rocking up in the long jackets and scarves with a newspaper onto it, which is totally not my background.
Okay.
So I was a bit fish out of water there. But I got the job straight away, and that's sort of turning point for me. I was just starting on a family, so up till then I'd been very checkered in my career, and I'd leave jobs willy-nilly. Here now I had commitments, so I had to stay in employment. And very early on in that job, we had our first child, Jade. So I had a couple of weeks out, and what the people in the office did was give me really all the dodgy leads, the really worst leads that no one wanted.
Yeah.
But I had to sell. I had to come in and sell. So I actually nailed it on the worst possible feature ever and sold something like 8 pages of advertising, and really made a name for myself, which then got me opportunities, and I then progressed on to be the sales manager. But that sort of dried up a little bit. And I actually had a friend who was working at Midwich at the time and said, you should come over here. It's a really good company. So I applied, and ironically, another guy I was working with at the advertising agency walked across the car park the same day as I did. And I I didn't know he was going. He didn't know I was going. We sat in the same group interview, and I didn't do the best interview, and I was a little bit probably too confident, but they backed me, and the rest is history. Then got the opportunity to get into Midwich, and I've been there ever since.
Did you come as a sales manager, or did you?
No, I came as what we called it. We were telemarketeers, which I don't know if that's an official term out there, but what that meant was we were proactive. So they hadn't, a lot of the business had been done reactively, and they wanted a couple of guys to go out there and make stuff happen. And that's what we did. Let's
talk about when we first met.
Okay.
Obviously, I was working as a removal man. I'd come up from London. Just to segue, my mum said, in my house, you had to work. There was no just sitting on your backside for a period of time. And then I said I wanted to travel. So she said, well, get yourself a job as a removal man, because then that way you'll always be on the road, which I thought
you were, weren't you?
Cheers, mum. I applied for the job at Midwich because it was too cold as a removal man. But yeah, I would say our interview, I'll let you sort of drive that.
Was that the first interview or the second interview you didn't show up when you hadn't had the paperwork?
Yes, that was it. No, it was the second interview. I didn't have any paperwork.
Okay. So we'd done a first interview, and I really liked you. I remember now, actually. I really liked you. But I think I said to you, you're holding back. I'm not seeing the true you. You were sort of like quite reserved in, I think you had predetermined your answers and were coming across in this very sort of straight-laced way, which I knew there was more underneath that I wanted to sort of extract. So we scheduled for a second interview, and I went down to the interview room and you didn't show up. And I thought, this is mad. Very disappointed. I said, so I think I got your number, and I phoned you up. I said, where are you, Karlton? You coming to this interview? He goes, wasn't any paperwork, so I'm not coming. I'm gutted. So I went into HR and I said, right, we need to get this guy in. And therefore we fuddled around, found the paperwork, got the invite sent out, and lo and behold, you thankfully came back. And I think at that time was when you started to really show the real personality and the passion. And I always have I had questions I would, and I said, what drives you in life, and what do you want to achieve? And your words to me were, Scott, I want to make my mum proud. And I'm a family man, and that massively touched me, other than everything else we'd gone through. And I thought, yeah, this is a guy that I want on the team, but also want someone I want to help to be able to achieve his goal. And that is to turn around one day and say, I've made my mum proud.
Yeah.
And we know that. And I knew you'd react like that.
Just, because my mum worked extremely hard for her career. And what a lot of people don't know is we grew up, I would say, poor. We didn't have housing association. I always remember that everyone used to get proper trainers. We were running around in market trainers, but we had me, my mum and my brother were our main thing. But mum pushed us all the way, and we got to Norfolk, and like I said, my mum was a real, when I moved up from London, mum always said, you've got to work, like I said before. And then I was at Midwich for about 4 years, doing really well. I would say, moved from my career through new business development, had a lot of fun on the way, like one of the best teams I've ever been in. And my mum had a massive stroke. That's why it gets a lump in my throat whenever we talk about that. She's still living and breathing now, but like I said, it's there's not a big story around it. It's just I became, from being parented, I became almost not the parent, because mum's always going to be the boss. If you met my mum, she would always tell you about yourself. But it was, in my career, it made me sort of stop and take a breath and think, do you know what, I now have to be almost a little bit like the man of the house. But I think that was my defining point in my career, was when, one, I came to Midwich, I had a great leader in front of me that I aspired to be like, and it was like I never had a father figure growing up. So then automatically you became that person where I was like, right, I'm going to emulate what he does and be better. That was my whole thing. So going from new business to majors, it was almost like it was very important to me to get in there with the likes of Mark Cummins and people like that. That was, again, I looked at and thought, wow, one day I can be like these guys, Nick Seaman, the great guys in Midwich. So yeah, I think making my mum proud was really important. But then I sort of wanted to make other people proud, and like you, when I moved on, and I think that was really important to me. Like, so it was like I had figures, mentors, but then I didn't want to let anyone down. So it made it more around all these people that made a part of who I was, were little snippets from all different people.
Am I right in thinking it went on beyond that?
What do you mean?
Well, you wanted to make your mum proud.
Yeah.
You made your mum proud.
Yeah.
Obviously, other people you felt it was important to get and make them proud of you, because I guess in a way you felt they sort of backed you and had supported you, and therefore you wanted to show that wasn't, that was a worthwhile investment.
Yeah.
And we were always proud of you anyway. You didn't need to do that, and a lot of what you did completely under your own steam because of the character you are, and you didn't change in order to get those places, which I think is great because you remained true to yourself.
Yeah.
People liked you for who you are. I think that's a key message to get out there. Don't change to conform. Yeah. Progress because you are good enough with who you are. But I do distinctly remember you saying to me on one occasion that, Scott, I've made my mum proud.
Yeah.
And you said you'd made yourself proud. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I suppose what you tend to do is, and we said it before, you navigate to me, but what was the biggest obstacle in your career? What was that speed bump that you managed to overcome to...
Absolutely, the biggest obstacle in my career is myself.
Yeah.
I totally believe now that you create the outcomes you experience in your own world yourself. It's how you conduct your... I feel like I can control the outside world by controlling my inside world. And I got that very wrong. There's thought processes I went through, and, I alienated myself from people for whatever reason, Karlton, but it wasn't productive. And I guess that's part of who you are from growing up and the experiences you have. But the biggest change for me was taking control of my thinking and my behaviours. And I think I noticed, and someone once said to me, give me some feedback. And I had to change through choice if I wanted to make those changes. But the feedback I then got was people noticed the change. And it was a positive thing, positive feedback. And I became a better person. So for me, I was my own worst enemy.
Personally, I've always thought you're a great person. And like what you did with our team... this is going rewinding and we're going back and forth a little bit, but the good old days, I would say, in the office, Andy says, I wish I knew I was in the good old days when I was in the good old days. They were the good old days in that little office in Gilray Road.
Wow.
Not that many pressures. Most people didn't have children other than you. But from a team perspective, I think we all had that commonality, if that's the right word, is that we were all driving to be the best. We were so competitive at that time. And I remember just coming in, and if you remember rightly, I didn't know how to email. And you pulled me into a room once and said, Carl, can you stop putting Post-it notes on people's screens? Because you can just email them and just say, so-and-so called for you. And I think for me that was massive, because I was like, oh, this is new technology. I think I went home and told my mum this was great. This is the new thing, and she was like, "Yeah, everyone's doing it." But because I'd missed that gap from in London on market stalls and all that sort of stuff going into the IT channel, Midwich distribution, I sort of missed that compute sort of phase. So
for me, when I've ever recruited, mate, I'm 80% attitude, 20% aptitude. And I don't think with you guys, it wasn't a case of you all had to be, computer literate, which clearly you weren't.
Yeah.
And there's another number of other things we put in place with people. But it was the desire of everybody and the application that meant you were good people to back and support and drive. And I think from a personal, why maybe I enjoy doing that is because I think this is my chance to help you guys avoid possibly making some of the mistakes I made for myself.
Yeah, I get it.
Because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't appreciate their own talents or understand just how good they are. There's others that don't flag wave and tell people how good they are because that's just not their style. So my job is to, what I feel, what the bit I enjoy is helping you fulfill the potential that you have, but you need help to find it, extract it, deliver upon that, and also get the exposure you need to go on and push on in life. And I think that's why you guys all had it. We just needed to help bring it to or manifest it.
Do you know what the weirdest thing that you said the word just there? I always pull people on the word saying just, but you said it in a positive way. Because in my team, it's being kind, loyal, and don't say the word just. Because I always say you don't just do anything. And when you go to people at a desk, you go up to them and say, can I speak to you? From a sales perspective, you'll go into people and say, can I speak to you around X, Y, and Z? And people will say, oh, I don't need to speak to you. I just process the orders. They almost undermine themselves before they've actually done anything. You don't just, if everyone just did something, we'd all, do you know what I mean? It's more around empowering yourself, almost like I do this because it enables this person to do X, Y, and Z. And I think sometimes people almost, like I said, they take away from what they do because it's easier for them to say, well, I just do this and fade into the background. When, like I said, there's people at Midwich, at Schneider, that do so much, but they almost beat their job up a little bit. So
they devalue that
100%.
job, where actually if you speak to anybody, you take anyone out of that process, and whoever's working with or relying on that individual in that process immediately misses them from that process.
Exactly. And I still do. I suffer from a terrible imposter syndrome because when I walk into a room, I look around at everyone and think, they're fantastic. I'm just me. I'm not articulate. I'm a lot better, by the way.
You are a lot better.
I'm a lot
You've come
better.
a long way.
Yeah. If you'd have had that old me, it was terrible. But from my background, from where I come from, I think there's a huge jump. I remember at school when I got taken out, again, my mum took me out of quite a rough school and I had to travel 12 miles a day to go to school. And I remember my group of friends and at school, and we laugh about it, they all used aftershave.
All right.
I know it sounds silly, but they were spraying on aftershaves that were like £70-80 a bottle. And I was thinking, Christ, I'm lost here, in that group of people. So it was almost like.
Do you know what? That surprises me.
In what sense?
That you, because that's what is that about? That is that a material thing? Is it I'm a good enough thing? What is that?
I don't know. I genuinely think I look at I used to look at everyone else and be like, oh, how great is their life? How great, almost like an interpretation of how Instagram is now. But I'd see the cars, I'd see the house, I'd see the clothing and stuff like that, and I'd always be like, oh, they're living their best life. But everyone has their own internal problems, but we just don't share it enough. I think
we brought this up earlier. I said to you just out there, you mentioned to me once you rocked up for a meeting in a suit once, and I went, wow, man, you're looking good today, Carl. And I'm thinking, what's he gone out and spent the last month's bonus on a suit for this visit? You look quality. And I said, where did you get your suit? You went, Tesco's. Now listen, there's nothing wrong with a Tesco suit here. And I went, oh, wow, okay. Because it just, I don't know, it looked like Hugo Boss. And you just said to me, Scott, it's not the clothes that make the man, it's the man that make the clothes.
That was an itchy suit, sir. It was full of polyester. Yeah.
But the point is, that was what I thought Karlton was about. It's not because I put this on, this changes who I am or makes me a better person. It's the person inside this suit
I think from a sales perspective, yeah, what you look like helps. I think so. Sometimes it makes you feel better. If you feel better, you tend to be outwardly better. But I think there was two sides of it. Like from a sales perspective, I was really shy back before, and then
At what point in this, the entire time we were with us,
Yeah,
that you were shy?
but
Sorry.
I was. There's a guy. I used to work on a market stall.
Okay.
I don't think he'll mind saying his name, but I used to work with Karlton, and he is my best friend. And we worked on a market stall together, and he'd drag me to that stall and go, "You've got to be outward. You've got to speak. You've got to get people in." And then that was really it was like a market stall trader. And then I came to Midwich, and you refine that.
I was just like you. I was very shy, and it was the fish and chip counter that I remember my dad. I was down the sort of back door, waiting to come into the shop front, and they had to push me out there. I was petrified. Didn't like looking at the queue. I'd have my head down, and hated it. But that process actually did help me to become more confident. And I think if you are thinking of building confidence, any sort of retail or hospitality type of business, or like you did with selling on the stores, I just actually think it helps you bring your confidence out. So if anyone's watching this and thinking, what can I do if I'm a little bit, put yourself out of a comfort zone. I didn't want to do it. I was, made to do it, but the best thing I did, and obviously that had a benefit for you. So I'd certainly say that's something to consider.
Putting yourself out of your comfort zone on a regular basis will enable you to be comfortable sooner or later. So I challenge anyone to do this. This isn't my norm.
Wow, I walked here, you were a natural.
Correct.
Brimming with confidence.
Yeah, I'm brimming. So that, I suppose, so we've gone through obviously how we met, where you're from, like what you did at Initial. I suppose a little bit about my job role. What are you doing now? What is your sort of role?
So I'm sort of working with we have lots of different divisions and companies in the Midwich Group. So I'm looking after the broadcast side of it. So it's a company we acquired based in Manchester Glossop actually, up near Manchester, called Holdan. So it's a smaller specialist team, and I'm gone up there to help with the sort of sales side of things. We're working as a leadership team across all the sort of sections, so business management as well, and bringing some of the sort of best ideas and concepts and stuff from Midwich, and working very closely, bringing them into the group as well, integrating them, which is really, really important. But again, it's a great team, real pleasure to work with. So much potential there. The guys are growing all the time, confidence. They're taking on new product sets and pushing them out to their customers, and we're in a time where we're having to be really proactive and creative, and I just think we're sharing best ideas, we're collaborating particularly well now as a unit, and there's a drive and a passion to succeed as one team, and that's evident.
Yeah, you can see that I see it now anyway. So I want to go and talk about Midwich. So when you went from the leader of Fast Force, I would say, very vocal about your leadership. Everyone was like, this team is doing fantastic. From Gilway Road, we moved across to Vince's Road. What changed in that period? Because what I would say is that team became not as unique for a little while. But what's changed, and because you're back to normal, Scott, like for me, when I look at you, there was a period where I wouldn't say you had lost, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but I would say, where was the change? How did you get yourself back to the guy that you are again now? Because everyone has ups and downs in their career, and I think the whole point of this podcast is to understand a bit of those ups and downs. So
this is not directly after the move to the new premises, because the integration was suddenly we were this isolated team working in a very different way. I would say we had a culture, didn't we? We had our own culture. Yeah. and that was the not the experiment, but that was the concept that they wanted us to trial. It was like, let's set something up away from the influences of what already is, and that's why it was different. The thing after the move was suddenly, I don't know if you felt it, but we started off, we were quite flipping different. We wanted to make a statement of different. We won lots of promos, and there was a lot of that side versus this side, but gradually it sort of blended its way in and sort of
became
the same thing again. So you sort of lose that. And then when I've done a few different sort of roles, didn't I, Karlton? A couple of other different things. Done sort of the training role, which was quite an isolated job. So that's probably not where I'm best suited. It was okay doing the sessions and the training, but a lot of that is the planning of in your own space. So you're not sort of leading individuals. And then, well, you mentioned him earlier, me and Mark thought, he was the same. He'd sort of been on a number of journeys, and we went and we rekindled what we did to prove the concept worked again. So we both stepped away from what roles we were in and said, let's just go in. I don't know if we wanted to do it for ourselves. We were both probably in the same space, and it was quite nice because we went off again in isolation. I'm quite a lone wolf, although I work for business, so I like to sort of maybe think and do some of that stuff under my own steam and make those decisions quite well, and build team work we do. So we did that, and that went really, really well, didn't it? After the first year, again, we achieved all our objectives. Then we came in and I changed up, looked at the whole sort of BD space, and we reconfigured all of that. And that was like a little challenge and a project to get that in the right shape. And actually, again, it was putting people in the right roles, realigning things, building allegiances with those people, building them up into some of those positions. I think that's the bit I enjoy. Big turning point for me in my own thinking, though, was I'd probably say COVID. Again, I talk about like your mindset, and it's things that maybe playing on your mind, the way you view the world isn't always healthy. And so it gave me a time to reset, and I spent the time to really think about what I wanted in my life, the outcomes I wanted to achieve, and how could I affect those. I read a bit, I listened to podcasts, and it freed me from things that were not healthy for me to think like, and behaviours that were coming out of that weren't conducive with building a good career or having a positive mindset. So I did that. I also did, through Midwich, I did an NLP course.
What is that? Sorry.
So neuro-linguistic programming. And I looked into it. It's very good for helping people. So it affects the way people think and view stuff. So I've probably used some of that as part of the coaching within Midwich. And also on a personal level, I felt I had these things, and the way I was behaving and thinking would not allow me to be the best version of myself. So I went there, and according to all participants, I knew I had a very bad aura. When you sit at a table, there's always a seat either side of you, right? And people were going like, you came in and you were scary, and that's not the guy I wanted to be. And by the end of it, they said it was a complete transformation. So I'm the volunteer for every single practical session possible. I'm on stage, a bit like you're doing, had a few tears, lost not, didn't care. It was, I'm here to be helped. And all of that has helped me get back to where I was when I was with you guys. And I thoroughly enjoy the people who I work with. I see every single day. I see it probably more than they see it. And it's something that, I keep trying to condition them to do is spot the little wins. There's tiny, tiny little successes every day. A little breakthrough they've made, maybe where they haven't got into their customer before, they've overcome a fear, and they've done it once. And I go, well, you've done it once, you can do it twice, 3, 4 times. So I constantly hear the wins, and that gives me the buzz, and I'm seeing them develop, which is great.
I think that's maybe mirrors you a little bit. I love seeing people develop. I think it started from Midwich a little bit, where I became a little bit of a leader at Midwich when I moved into majors, then BDM, and started going out and seeing customers. And then over time, once I had my children, then it became, and I'm not saying my team or my children by any stretch of the imagination, but I always want people to succeed. This podcast was going to be called The Legacy IT. And I think life is about leaving a legacy for people I think people want to talk about you once you're gone. And that's what I want. I think everyone, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people want to talk about people with remember that person, remember what they did, remember X, remember what. So for me, it's really, really important to almost drive people and give people the opportunities that maybe I didn't have at the beginning. You take the mick out of it, because I won't say the name, but you, the person I say that inspired me, because he said I'd never be a manager. And I've took a lot of that into my life, where I think actually I am a okay leader. Like, I do care about people. I think, like I said, being loyal, being kind, maybe not the most ambitious names for it, but actually by being loyal and being kind, you open up a lot of doors. And we're about, especially in my team now, we are about looking after each other and helping each other. And I think it shows, like massively shows, that if you get and giving people the opportunity, like from different walks of life. Our team is super mixed, from equality, diversity, all of that stuff, but we don't look at it that way. It's almost like if you're the right person and you willing to leave a little bit yourself on the table.
We touched on that earlier, didn't we? And that was the same for the team that you refer back to. And you sort of said, I said good team. I said, because everybody was of a similar ilk.
Yeah.
You know, you can say, is it by chance, but it's not, you're recruiting around a certain type of individual. And I don't think it is by chance that you guys are all still so close and still so friendly, because, and you know, I remember many, many times where, you know, you might have achieved your number and then the team would stop to help this person.
Yeah, we did.
There was enough room for everyone to be successful in their team. There was no egos. There was no one trying to step on top of anyone else to get ahead. And everybody's still supporting one another through various stages of their life, as you well know. So that's really good. The other thing I would just add to it as well, when I consider just helping anybody or talking to anybody, I know my children will go into environments out in the world where somebody will be able or will be in a position to help them in their careers. And I have always tried to do that for people in the same way that I would want someone to do that for my children. Just give someone the very best advice for them. And actually, you're not here to make me great.
Yeah.
I'm here to make you great.
When you were saying that, I remember, because again, you've been super supportive throughout my whole career, but especially at the start when I didn't know how to sell or I didn't know how to do anything really. And I said to you, I'm going to get back into rugby, I'm going to do really well. And you brought your children, and your children used to have a fond regard of me, thinking I was...
an athlete.
Yeah, an athlete. They quickly found out that I wasn't. And I got my head put up my backside a few times. And then I remember, just for your son, if he ever watches this, the first time I went to watch your boy play football, and he ended up just cuddling one of his mates for the whole period of time. So, yeah, he showed me how to be the different side of it, because it was just, and I think these are little common threads I know that have brought us so close together, because it became almost a family, and that's what I tried to replicate in our team. It's more around, we all work, we all have to drive to hit a number. We're in a sales organisation, so it's really important. However, if we can do it with a smile on our face and supporting each other and seeing other people grow, and some of the people in my team, if you've seen how they've developed and grown, it's unbelievable. And I think that gives me such joy. And I know it sounds really cringy sometimes when people say that, but I genuinely, when I hear about people getting awards, or when I see people getting awards, or they've done good on a number or had a good meeting even, and they ring me and go, guess what, blah, 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 blah. X, Y and Z, that was great. People, even now, like, I'll get phone calls, I've just won an order, I've just won a customer, I've just done this, or
simple little small things, isn't it? And they
Yeah.
mean such a lot. And for me, I agree. There's a buzz for me.
yeah, it's the little things.
Yeah, I just want to touch on one bit you haven't covered, actually, because I thoroughly enjoyed introducing you to my children, because I knew you'd be a good influence on their life, and they've got a fondness for you as well.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was in a position, wasn't I, where I had a young guy who I thought, do you know what? He's on that journey now. He's at the early phase of his career. He's got a view of the world. There's certain things I could say as his manager that he may or may not buy into, but I wanted someone in my life who I thought could have a positive impact on that person. So I found a couple of other people and they weren't available. No. So the first person I thought was you. And you've had a couple of mentoring sessions with that individual. And I think your ability to help that person reflect, understand why they're thinking a certain way, maybe reevaluate, etc., has been hugely beneficial for them and put them on the right tracks to grow their career.
But it's hugely beneficial for me.
Yeah.
Because I said I see the development in that person from that first call to the last one. It's almost like a different person. Still the same,
Needed
obviously.
that.
Yeah,
He
but
absolutely needed that.
Yeah.
But I think would honestly come online and say it's helped him hugely.
yeah, no. What are the three things that the older Scott would say to the younger Scott?
What advice would I give myself now? There's a couple of things that immediately come to mind. The first one is I would actively encourage anyone to go out of their comfort zone and almost enjoy the feeling of feeling uncomfortable, because I truly believe you'll come out stronger. And I think the more you can do it, the quicker you'll grow, would be the first thing. So maybe there's things that I could have, should have done back then that I stepped away from, that I think had I done them sooner, I'd be further down the track.
Yeah.
So that'd be my first thing. Second thing was to adjust my thinking about why I haven't done certain things. So again, I'd encourage me to not fear failure.
Oh, yeah.
So I've realised it's not failure I fear. The biggest thing I fear is regret. So I'd rather have done something and failed and know I tried and failed than I will get to a point where I look back and go, you didn't even try.
Yeah.
I regret not doing that. That will hurt me more. And I think the third thing is actually to enjoy the moment. Stop living. I'm an overthinker. So I analyse the past or what people have said to me a lot and try to make sense of it. I'm always thinking about what I need to be doing next and put myself under pressure to do that. And one of the greatest things I've found recently is the ability to live in the now and to just enjoy the moment. I try to do, just make sure I'm touching myself. I'm in here. I can see this, I feel I'm in this room with you, not thinking about where I would be if I wasn't in this room. Does that make sense? And appreciation for everything I've got right now. And I spend a lot of time just reminding myself I've had a very good life.
I suppose for me, we've had some great times, and I think you've got to live whilst you're living. And I think people get caught up in always, you want to get more, you want to drive more, a lot of people, but sometimes being content where you are and embracing the smaller things is so important. Like when I got ill, one of my friends said to me, you have the ability to actually embrace the small things. And I think for me, that's one of the most meaningful things that someone's ever said to me. Because I thought, when you're running around all day, every day, all of that sort of stuff, you forget that there are these little things that are amazing. Like, and I've said it to you before, but watching your children sleep, like, it's so pure. And having time to just sit there and take that in doesn't cost you anything, but reading the story to your kids at the end of the night It's really important, I think, because not only is it good for them, it's actually good for yourself. Like, so, and I think that's sometimes lost in our busy day-to-day running around.
I would completely agree. I look back and think, actually, if you wanted a fourth thing, yeah, I would have probably spent more time enjoying that time with the kids than sort of evaluating and sort of being this responsible parent driving them on. Don't take the fun out of a situation, which I sort of did sometimes. I tried to be the best parent. I tried to drive them on, but sometimes it was just too much.
Yeah, same. I would say the same. So, and I want, like I said, people to look back and go, my kids to look back and go, oh, I had a great dad. Or you don't want them to come back and go, oh, my dad was militant. Because that's how a lot of people from where I grew up having that.
I got some bits wrong, mate. I remember the worst one. I thought, well, I've done a lot of bad ones. But one I was thinking about was when the daughter got some really good grades, right? I think she got a D in one subject, but probably 10 A's and B's, right? And
I can tell you what you did.
Go, what'd you get a D in? And I know that, I can't ever take that back.
Nah.
But just being aware of what you're saying sometimes is really important.
Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
An honour to be here. I'm glad we met. I'm glad we have the strong friendship we have. I think, like I said to you when I came to see you after knowing Karlton and this guy's been on this journey, and I came to yours that day. And I don't think I was in the best place I needed to be at that time. I left there thinking, Karlton, you've left a really strong impression on me today. You've almost turned the table a bit. I feel like I've learnt and you've helped me in my thinking.
Yeah.
I got a lot back from that. You're a great man, a great father, a super friend, and, our acquaintances aren't as good, but the way you look out for people is second to none, mate. So, mate, I'm just grateful to be a part of that, and I hope this has been of use to you and to whoever thinks that they got some value out of our words of wisdom.
Thank you. It's better.